Buddy. Welcome to Lib and Learn. I'm your temporary Josiah, the soy pill, in a hotel room, following Josiah across the state as he attempts to flee the country. With me today, as
Wow.
always, is
What are you guys
Hutch.
doing?
Wow, that's classified.
Okay.
Damn. Look at you.
Hutch, IRI, and Pisco. How you guys doing? I guess we're all doing mustaches now. I got kind of inspired by you, Pisco. I'm feeling very rednecky
Thanks,
today.
bro. You're gonna get it. It'll get there.
Yeah, I'm trying to go into the work site. I'm trying to get things done. You know, you don't tell me how to do your job, and I don't tell you how to do yours. Okay.
Did you substitute in your beanie hat, your little propeller hat?
For now, yeah. I'm trying to blend in here because I'm in Eastern California. There's a bunch of vote no on Prop 50 signs, a lot of Trump flags out here, and you just gotta have to blend in a little bit, you know?
Yeah, it can't be too obvious about everything that you're doing. Are you taking down signs or something?
No. I'm thinking about potentially. I mean, this isn't confirmed, but asking people around what they think about Prop 50, how they're gauging it. A lot of people are calling it a fascist takeover, which is really interesting. Gavin Newsom is an insane dictator trying to destroy California and control the country. So it's interesting seeing just like the bubbles that people live in out here for sure.
People get. I don't know if everybody in the country knows just how many conservatives are in California. It's like a full third of the electorate. It's a state of 40 million people. So there's a lot, especially when you get into like Central California where all the farming is. But there are these little pockets of California that are super Trumpy.
What are they like? What are these California Republicans like? Are they like Kevin McCarthy, or are they more like Matty Gates?
They're not like
Or
either,
neither.
really. There are a lot of rural farmers out here, and they're simple men just trying to make their simple lives. And they usually, if you ever confront them on anything, it's very much from a place of ignorance. This sounds very condescending, but it's very much like they're like, oh, you're worried about Trump cracking down on free speech? He would never do that. And it's like, okay, well, here's all these examples, and they're like, I've never heard of that. So like, very just not tuned into politics at all, very much in the bubble,
Are you? I forget about this, Soy Pill, but you're California born and raised, aren't you?
I'm Berkeley born and raised. I'm as lib as it gets.
Damn. You and Vosh, right? Isn't he from Berkeley?
I feel like I would have seen him, but there's like about 10 Voshes per block. So it's hard to tell if it's Vosh or just yet another hippie-looking guy with a beard and glasses. So
yeah, what is that archetype for you? Like, do you guys drink good coffee? Are you like into the man buns? Like, why haven't you fully embraced your roots as a Berkeley liberal?
I don't want to join a polyamorous throuple or quadruple, so I'm not there
They're
yet.
called polycules.
A polycule, yeah.
Yeah.
Can't fit the stereotype. All right, guys, let's get into it. Our first topic of the day, the ceasefire. Donald Trump is the peace president. Can we all agree that Donald Trump is the peace president, everyone, and that he should have gotten the Nobel Prize? He was snubbed.
Well, this makes 8, right? 8 wars that he solved, I think, is what
wars.
we're up to.
I'm losing track. I'm tired of peace. That's how much peace we have.
Well,
Yeah,
I think go for it.
Well, I was just gonna say, I think there was a press conference today where they were talking about the ceasefire, right? And there were leaders of the various like Arab states, and or for some reason, I think the leader of Azerbaijan and what was that one war that he claimed that Albania, and there's actually like a clip of those two leaders at the UN like mocking Trump about that. I don't know if you guys saw that clip. But then he went up there like in front of the leader today and just repeated that same claim.
You mean Armenia?
Was it Armenia? I don't know. It's like
that's the one that borders Azerbaijan, Hutch, and you should know that.
Well, Eastern Europe is not my forte, but yeah,
it's okay. A lot of aid countries.
Yeah, that Trump screwed it up. It was Azerbaijan and Armenia, and Trump said Albania by accident a few weeks ago.
So
wow.
It sounds like they were mocking him.
Vindicated.
Yeah.
Absolutely vindicated. No, I can give my thoughts on the ceasefire if that's
yeah. Get into
so
it,
first of all, I am really, really happy that there is a ceasefire and that the bombing has stopped. And so, when you see Palestinians celebrating, when you see the release of hostages, this is a deliverance, something that is a long time in the making, and so that makes me very, very happy. And it does look like there was engagement at a high level from the State Department, Marco Rubio, and others that, if you believe reporting, that pushed Israel and Netanyahu, and that's a good thing. Here's what I don't give credit for, right? Like, we had a ceasefire in place during the transition. We had a ceasefire that was, where Witkoff was engaged in those months leading up to it. That was pushed for by the Biden administration, and Trump just forgot about this. But this is essentially the same framework that's been around for forever, and he just was like out to sea for what, 8 months. 8 months, and instead of choosing to go along with the previous ceasefire and enforce it, and actually get some buy-in from the Israelis at that point, he allowed this to continue for 8-9 months, and then expanded the war into Iran. And so I don't view this as a success of Trump's making. This deal was on offer for a president who wanted to apply the pressure. Unfortunately, Biden did not. That's to his shame. But that framework agreement was there, and Trump chose to ignore it for 8-9 months.
Well, I feel like the most important part of this discussion is probably like the likelihood of this plan actually, being seen to completion.
Right.
And I share the fact that the bombs are stopping right now and that the hostilities have ceased is obviously a godsend for Palestinians, and I'm sure everybody is very happy for them to experience that relief from that. But when you look at the particulars of the plan, it's really difficult to imagine that actually completing, because it doesn't include a Palestinian state. It includes, like, I don't know exactly what the language is, but it's like an intention to discuss a Palestinian state at some point. And there's also 2 provisions in the plan that are basically calling for Hamas to just be completely dissolved. And they can choose exile or they can choose to stay, but they have to completely disarm and stay out of governance and military in the region. If you know anything about Hamas, they've been fighting this fight for 35 years, 40 years, something like that. Their goal this entire time has been the establishment of Islamic State and to kill or expel every Jewish person in the region. And for them to agree to this ceasefire agreement would be just a complete, total surrender. And I don't know what you guys think. I don't know if you guys, foreign policy is like your thing, but like, I don't know. This just seems like really, really, really unlikely for them to agree to this in the end. So, yeah.
So correct me if I'm wrong. My understanding is that they kind of have it on the table where they can disarm, agree to cease tensions, but they're leaving the door open and the weapons around for potentially whatever government then usurps them, not usurp or replaces them. So whether that be the PLA or whatever other organization, they're kind of like, yeah, we'll do this insofar as this will decrease the killing now, but we're pushing it down the road for whichever government replaces us, which may or may not be made of the same person. Can anyone confirm that, or am I misreading potentially part of the plan?
I thought there was a provision in the plan to destroy their weapons, but I could be wrong. Let me pull it up, actually. Hold on.
That may be the case. I thought you were going to mention potentially one of the biggest things I thought was, a long shot or idealistic was this idea that they're going to de-radicalize, have these kind of like re-education for the Palestinians. I think initially when this plan was on the table, it was this kind of mutual thing where Israelis and Palestinians would come and do these re-education programs to learn how to live together. I think Netanyahu kind of talked that down to just the Palestinians are doing that. And I'm trying to imagine the workshop, one of those cringy DEI kind of workshops that you might go to in your whatever kind of job you have, and like that on a massive scale for an entire country of people who just had their families exploded and their entire homes razed, and what you could possibly say to them that's going to get them to de-radicalize. I mean, I guess it would look something similar to the way we did this with the denazification in the 40s and 50s. But
I mean, there's historical precedent for it. But in order to de-radicalize, I would assume you would need the establishment of a Palestinian state and a Palestinian state that is free from any kind of coercive control or occupation from Israel. And that's not really guaranteed unless Hamas disarms and dissolves itself. So.
Well, I just want to say that people that have really been vindicated here are the protesters who've been showing up to Kamala Harris's book tour. Everybody out there who said that pressuring the Democrats out of power wouldn't have an impact have egg on their face today. So,
Yeah.
Are you talking about the recent clip where I think some of these protesters like have admitted they're scared to protest at Trump events because they don't want to get attacked, but they'll go to the Kamala Harris campaign stuff after, or not campaign stuff, book tour stuff after has zero legislative power whatsoever, and say, free Gaza. And it's like, I think Kamala Harris probably handled it best by saying, I don't know what you want from me. I can't do anything now. But is that what you're referencing?
pretty much, yeah. They're at the Bernie rallies too, screaming at AOC and Bernie. So those people, what will they do with themselves now is what I wonder now. I really am curious to see where the energy goes.
They don't have to give up on it because, I mean, the terms of the deal are pretty, like if you're they're big on like anti-colonialism, and there's just, it seems to be a lot of like colonialism in this deal. It's not like they're just giving Palestinian people their own state. It's like a whole new, it's going to be like a multilateral effort to, set up like a demilitarized zone and then establish like a temporary government there. And so there's plenty for them to pick apart here, but in terms of like what the next omnicause will be, who knows? I hope it's, Trump, like that would be nice, but we'll see.
Well,
I think the biggest question mark. Oh, sorry.
I was gonna say, I think we're like 4 Hamas rockets away from going right back into this. So we'll see what happens. This was the easy part.
I'm concerned as well for the longevity of the deal, given what the position of Benjamin Netanyahu's cabinet has been up until recently. Hopefully it sticks. Hopefully there's the availability for this to be lasting and for them to get to the different phases of the deal. My concern continues to be that Trump is being motivated by personal enrichment, his relationships with Gulf states, etc., and that he's not being motivated. And if you even see some of the press conference or whatever, the announcement deal, I think there was a hot mic between him and now I'm not even remembering if it was someone from what, I don't know if it was Egypt or it was some country. I'm not remembering.
I saw one with Indonesia. Are you talking about that? Where he's asking for his son?
Yeah, that was Indonesia. That was right. Yeah. And so nobody really, I think, trusts the motivation of Trump in this moment, and hopefully it'll have a staying power. That's my hope. But yeah, time will tell.
I think
I hope so too.
Can we all be happy? Killing is currently ceased.
Yeah, of course.
And I know the meme is like, by no means do you have to, quote, hand it to Hitler. But hey, look, if Trump's the one to get this done, as much as this should have been done earlier, as much as he had it on his plate, it's happening now. I'm happy it's happening now. And, that doesn't mean we're going to, flip on him. But it's like, hey, like, you can do a good thing and be like, okay with that. I'm okay with admitting that.
So supposedly the thing that really pushed this thing into like actually materializing was Netanyahu's strike in Qatar, which was meant to like decimate Hamas leadership. And I think it ended up killing mostly like Qatar. Do you say Qataris? I'm not sure. Like police officers in Qatar, like one Hamas official. But, Netanyahu and Israel, they've been trying to normalize relations with a lot of these states for like the last decades, like a decade pretty aggressively. And so there was a bunch of pressure on him from these other states after that strike. And then plus the Trump administration themselves, because, Trump was pretty pissed about that. Like he didn't give Trump a warning. Like I think he gave him like an hour warning, like we're going to do this. And so, yeah, he really fucked himself by doing that, which is pretty ironic considering like one of the main pitches that Netanyahu has been throwing to Israeli voters over the last, 2.5 decades was that, he was the guy that was going to prevent the establishment of a Palestinian state. Like that was like one of his selling points. And so I don't know, there's a lot of reasons to be dubious of this, of this plan. But of course, it's obviously a really great thing that the bombings are going to stop for the time being.
I just want to say, yes, of course, everybody's happy and Trump did something good. But I always say, I don't think it's anything special of Trump. I think Democrats would have done it. I think Kamala would have done it. Biden did it, as Pisco said, handed a ceasefire that Steve Witkoff was involved with when he left office. So somebody in the chat I saw said, this was the easy part. Why didn't Biden do it? Well, he did do it. And he handed off the plan to Trump and he screwed it up. So what do you want from him?
Well,
it reminds me a little bit
IRI. Well, I got to ask IRI. Did Secretary of State under Biden whisper into his ear in front of the press conference and let everyone know that the ceasefire was happening, and make everyone excited? Because if that didn't happen, I mean, I guess you didn't really get everyone on board, right?
That was a hilarious moment because we saw the note said we need you to approve the Truth Social post announcing it, and Trump said to everybody before he realized they knew that note had been seen, he's like, they need me to do a couple final things, and then I think we're gonna get there. It's like, no, dipshit, they need you to approve the social media post announcing it.
I think something that Biden would not have been able to do is I think that he would not have been able to leverage the political right in Israel to the degree that Trump is. I mean, Trump, I'm assuming in Israel, he has some credibility among the right wingers there. And, that speech where he's speaking at the Knesset, would a Democrat be able to walk into the Knesset and deliver a speech like that and to get buy-in from Netanyahu this way? I'm not sure. I'm not sure about that. But all I know is that I don't trust the input, what the machinery of the incentive structure of Donald Trump. And I know that he did have a ceasefire agreement walking into the administration, and what happened for the last 8 months and 9 months, I don't know. But we should not, I think, count our chickens before they hatch. What we want is a sustained peace, and time will tell.
Well, maybe this is a good transition then, Pisco. But if you had to over/under, what will last longer, the government shutdown or the ceasefire deal?
Ooh.
I think that the ceasefire deal will last longer than the government shutdown, but that is just my vibe of it. Right now the Polymarket or whatever has it lasting longer than a month. I don't think that there's any.
Why is that
incentives.
the metric for everything now?
Listen. It's a nice little indication of where the money is. That's all I'll say. But like what is the incentives for Democrats to cave? I don't see what the incentive is for the Democrats to cave at this moment.
I feel like
they look so weak. And if go ahead.
Well, no, just to answer your question, I think like the only plausible incentive for Democrats would be to stop the complete decimation of the administrative state. But, because Vott's already started these like mass firings. I think like thousands of people were laid off starting on Friday, right? I don't know what the total is up to now, but if they really,
like tens of thousands now, and this is on top of, I mean, what was happening with Doge at the beginning of the year. So we're up to hundreds of thousands at this point, or we already were back then. But yeah, it's even more now.
Yeah.
I think that I have no indication or proof that they wouldn't have fired these people anyway, that they wouldn't have, who cares? Like if it's one additional month before they lose their job anyway, they're in the Supreme Court arguing that they have plenary authority over firing people. So I'm not super convinced. And even currently as it is, the government is just operating as some kind of kleptocracy to just enrich Trump. Now there's a lot of government services that could be affected for sure, but that was true regardless of whether there's a shutdown or no shutdown. I was of the opinion that I would rather have this fight earlier, and be able to sort of pinpoint focus on Doge, et cetera. But like, regardless, I don't think that that's a strong enough rationale for Democrats who have now in for a penny, in for a pound. They have said that this healthcare issue is majorly important enough to risk this kind of stuff, and for them to back off, the political incentive there would be disastrous.
I agree, but I'm glad you brought that up the first time where they didn't decide to shut down Pisco, because I'm curious what your guys' thoughts are. The argument back then from Schumer and a few of the other Democrats were, if Donald Trump is able to, go into the shutdown, he will take advantage of the, lack of government structure and start just mass deleting things in ways that like are unprecedented. And it seems like that's what they're doing now anyway. So the opportunity was there before, and the opportunity is there now.
They were doing it anyway, is my response to that. Like they've been doing it this entire time. And is there a notable difference? Some thousands of people maybe lost their jobs. Maybe they would have kept it a little bit longer otherwise. But this is a fight that's coming no matter what. And this is the last moment of real leverage the Democrats have until the midterms. And you're just going to give it away? But anyway, that's in the past. Now we're in this moment. And I'm kind of judging to IRI or Hutch's question, I forget now, or maybe it was yours, Soy Pulse. What are the incentive structures for the Democrats to give up on this? To just give the Republicans what they want? They won't. And what's the incentive structure for the Republicans to give the Democrats what they want on healthcare? I'm not sure that there is such a. So I don't know. It seems like an impasse.
Well,
maybe there's a willingness now that the premiums are going up.
I was going to say on the second one, I mean, I think if this comes back, and typically this is the case regardless of any and all nuance, the person or the peoples in power are going to face the brunt of the blame for any and all hardships faced by anyone in this country right now. So whether that is healthcare premiums going up, whether that is mass firings by the greatest, I don't like to call it like the welfare employment, but like the federal government employs a bunch of Americans, and those people are hurting right now. That all is going to come back on the Republicans, and I think the impasse will be resolved if the Republicans realize this is more harmful to us in the midterms than it is, beneficial for us to get these tax cuts and kick all these people off of healthcare.
I think that ultimately the blame is going to be on the party in power. I think ultimately the Democrats have picked a decent issue that they pull really well on, which is healthcare. Did you guys listen to there was a recent discussion between, we always bring up fucking Ezra guys. We're so obnoxious. Ezra and fuck the pod save guy. I always forget his name. John Favreau.
I did watch
that, Favreau. And
he's not the guy who did Iron Man, by the way. It's a different John Favreau. He's the skinny John Favreau. That's how you remember.
Not the buddy. What's his name? I forget his name. Buddy
Happy Hogan.
Happy Hogan. Anyway, like the big issue is like, should Democrats do this whole thing of like, well, let's let the average voter feel the consequences of their vote, or should we actually work to like help keep our powder dry on our most important issue? In other words, or should we like ultimately do the healthcare thing right now, take the stand right now, maybe when it's going to be less impactful for the midterms? I'm with IRI. What I've heard IRI say consistently is that Democrats will, when they have the opportunity, take a stand to actually help the people. And I'm not super convinced that keeping your powder dry is super helpful, especially because like I don't see another opportunity where the Democrats will have any leverage, in, at least as far as the federal government is concerned, to do something. So yeah, I'm just like, I think that you have to fight now and keep fighting, and you should have fought months ago.
I think the Steelman argument in favor of like letting people suffer the consequences is that what I hear people say is that if the provisions or the subsidies are ended up if we win this fight, and what are we talking about, by the way? There's subsidies, right? We're talking about ACA subsidies, right?
ACA subsidies,
yeah. So if those get restored, then the Trump voters, like who skew now under people who make under $100,000 a year, they skew now to the Republican Party. And so it's going to be Republican voters that are disproportionately impacted by these subsidies cuts. And so the argument is that if we fight this negotiation and actually win and get them back, get them restored, then those people might just end up giving Trump credit for that anyways. But I don't know. I just feel like there's like, there's something to be said for, if we do get the message out that Democrats fought to restore these subsidies, then we could actually maybe reverse that demographic leak that we had in 2024 and, foster goodwill with a lot of these voters. If they are made aware that it was Democrats that got those subsidies saved, then, you're talking about potentially, millions of like loyal Democratic voters moving forward. So I don't know what you guys think of that, but
can I change the question a little bit for Soy Pill and IRI? And I wanted you to address this. Do you hope that the Supreme Court strikes down Trump's tariffs?
Politically, no, but for the sake of America and my wallet, yes. But politically, it would be a gift to Trump if they did.
If they did strike him down, you mean? Because you think
of course.
that it would.
It's the majority of his tariffs, the trafficking and the I don't know what they call the other ones, the reciprocal, I guess, tariffs.
Yeah, it's kind of like the reframing of the trolley problem question that Hutch is talking about, which is it more worth it for us to have the tariffs send us into a recession so that Republicans lose in the future than it is to fight for what's right and stop the consumers of America being hurt? And that's a really hard one, because personally, I think we should always be trying to help the people. But if by helping them from winning the next election and it gets worse, then it's kind of hard to say.
Is he cutting out for you guys at all?
A little
bit.
Okay,
that's fine though. He'll be all right.
We got the essence of what you said.
I want to say that I think we're winning already on this fight, because now the Republicans are on defense. This is the first time the Democrats have led the narrative since losing the election in November. So even if we get the ACA subsidies extended like 2 years and Trump gets a win out of it, we have positioned ourselves, the Democrats, as the people fighting to bring down your health insurance costs, which I think is going to continue to be an issue next year. Even if the subsidies get extended, everybody's premiums are still going to go up. At least there's a lot of people outside of the ACA that have health insurance, and their insurance premiums are going to go up. And that's like your third largest bill at this point. So I think it's just a win-win across the board. And now you got Marjorie Taylor Greene out there fighting on our behalf as well, saying Republicans are responsible for this shutdown.
Oh, yeah, what's up with
they
her?
could open it up. Yeah, I don't.
What do you think she's doing?
I think she's been pushed out, and she's trying to find her own little lane, because there's no opportunity for her really beyond where she's at now.
There also is a pretty apparent vibe shift that's happening in this country right now. You know, like I'm not going to say that the podcast bros are the best barometer of like the political winds, but the fact that so many of them are now coming out and talking about how they regret getting involved in politics. People like Aiden Ross and Theo Vaughn and Andrew Schultz and Joe Rogan are all, you know, talking about how, in their words, they didn't vote for this, which is kind of baffling and honestly infuriating in a lot of ways. But, you know, I think they can see the conversation shifting in this country to one that is about how chaotic and destructive the Republican Party is with Donald Trump in the leadership role.
Well, that's the issue. I mean, this is a good kind of like umbrella term or topic to talk about, which is these Marjorie Taylor Greenes or any of these podcast bros. People like to say you can't use reason to reason someone out of a position that they didn't reason themselves into because they didn't use logic. They're stupid. But clearly you can sway these people with vibes. But that is fucking infuriating. I'm really pissed watching Joe Rogan say this isn't what I voted for when everyone with two eyes could say, look, they're calling for mass deportations. This is what they're going to do. And he's out there saying, well, you know, I understand being concerned about crime, and is able to go head over heels and bend over backwards to give the most charitable explanation, most reasonable possible, you know, explanation of what Trump is saying. Meanwhile, if you just listen to the actual words coming out of everyone in his administration, it's not even close to what Joe Rogan is portraying it as. It's very frustrating.
I'll just say, I think the podcast bros are completely audience captured. That's how they got to the point where they are. And so it's a reflection of what their audience is feeling, which shows you what the American people are feeling.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, that's a pretty big sample size too, right? I mean, it's very skewed in one direction. It's going to be like typically like 20 to 35 in male. And so that's going to skew the results. But you know, like that is like a very decent sample size. Collectively, they have tens of millions of people in their audience. And so if I totally agree with that, by the way, like they are audience captured, if nothing else. And so the fact that
how do you keep them here is what I'm kind of like at a loss for, because clearly they see it now, but what happens in the next election when they fall for this again and again and again and again, and no matter what you shove in their face, they're going to say, well, I mean, that time, but this time, you know, apparently they're just, you know, can bounce back and forth like a pendulum with absolutely no logical sway.
Well, that's why it's so important for the Democratic Party to, you know, improve their brand at this point. Like if we can get a Democratic Party that can turn the low approval numbers around and actually get people excited again, then I think we'll be able to capitalize on those vibe shifts. But I think we should be careful and not confuse people like Rogan talking about how it looks bad and inhumane to go to Home Depot and violently deport people. We shouldn't confuse that with, you know, they're flocking over to the Democratic Party, because I haven't seen any indication that the podcast bros are like, you know, let's support Democrats in the midterms. So it's really up to the party to like change their image. And that's just a really difficult thing. I think images can get really sticky, and leadership doesn't seem like it's changing anytime soon. And so,
well, Hutch, are you positing that all these podcast bros, when they're voicing these like concerns with the image and the Trump, really what they're saying is, I'm going to hold my nose and vote for it again, kind of like they're not really switched over?
I don't. It's more likely that they just won't vote, I think, but I really don't know. I have no idea. But like, I don't know if you guys have seen them say like, maybe the Democrats aren't that bad, but like, I think that's going to take some time. And I think it's going to take, honestly, I think it's going to take like a generational kind of presidential candidate to like change the brand. Like it's going to have to be like, you know,
It reminds me of Drew Pavla. You guys know this guy, Drew Pavla?
Yeah.
Never liked this guy that much, and I never tried. Well, I find him funny sometimes. I think that he can be humorous and shit, and sometimes he has decent memes. But I never once was like on board of he's an ally, because how he thinks is just ultimately fucked. Same thing with kind of Joe Rogan. It's at all. How you think is more important than what you think. And for these people who are so easily charmed by big personalities, so easily charmed by like white nationalist type people, Pauline Hanson out of Australia. It just isn't. It's hard to pinpoint or triangulate with accuracy, like some kind of rational argument that will appeal to these people, to people who just have, again, the inputs into their thinking process are so fucked. You see how Joe Rogan responded to the COVID crisis with a bunch of garbage and bullshit. I mean, he, in 2 seconds, he's debunked. Like, he'll say something and it's debunked in 2 seconds, and he'll be back saying it the next week. And so when people like Joe Rogan at all, who have a fucked process of coming to conclusions or beliefs, it's hard, I think, to get a good estimation of the kinds of things that will rationally convince such people.
Well,
I don't think they're motivated by rational shit. I think they're motivated by vibes, and the vibes are either on or they're off.
I agree, but I also think there's an anti-establishment thread that goes through all of these guys. And so whoever the establishment is, they're going to start to sour on. So now Trump is in power. He's the establishment. And so they start turning on him, because that's what your average politics consumer, that's the world they're in. They're all corrupt. They're all frauds. They cheat us. We need term limits, so it doesn't change when Trump and the Republicans get in there. So this is why I keep saying we don't have to do anything special. You guys can disagree with me, and people in the audience can too. Democrats don't have to do anything special. We don't have to reinvent. Well, we could even run Kamala again for all I care. We will be the alternative, and that's what people will vote for if they're suffering like they were during the pandemic in Biden's couple of years.
I think this kind of touches on, you mentioned Ezra Klein, and I think you would touched on it a little bit in this conversation with Fabro about I think IRI last week, I think you said something like, gone are the days where you're going to have these 30, 40, 50 seat majorities in the House. I don't know how true that is. Maybe you're right about that. But when we're talking about the Senate, we can't even imagine a 60 seat Democratic majority. And so, you say we don't have to do anything different, but I don't know. I feel like the fact that we can't imagine that, and the fact that that's just so closed off, to me, that says that we should probably think much more outside of the box of the last 15 years of politics. But
sure, I think it's going to naturally happen. I mean, look at Gavin Newsom. He's been having a blast, and nobody could have predicted that. So I just think something's going to come along in the next couple of years that's going to change everything. I mean, even if Kamala ran again in 2028, she'd be a totally different candidate. People think she's going to run as the same Kamala that ran last year. No way. She would be a totally different person. So it's going to change naturally, and somebody will come along and inspire people, and who knows what that'll be, though.
Yeah, and I was just thinking today about just how much the nature of coalition building has shifted in the last 100 years. I watched a 40-minute video on YouTube about how FDR had the support of the Communist Party in the United States, even though he was avowed anti-socialist and big pro-capitalism person. Civil rights leaders in the country supported FDR, even though he opposed anti-lynching bills and civil rights legislation, because a third of his coalition were racist segregationists in the South. And those were just very pragmatic decisions that those groups made back then. And we can't even imagine that happening now. The nature of coalitions, just especially when it comes to left-wing politics, although I suppose it's happening on the right as well. They're kind of leaning more into the extremes. But yeah, I don't know. Isn't that kind of interesting? It's completely changed in the last 100 years. That's just not on the cards. We would never have the conversation about, welcoming hypothetical segregationists into the coalition. But were those coalitions?
I hope we're not trying to imagine that now, are we?
Well, listen, I mean, Social Security, that's something that came out of the FDR administration. That would not have been possible without the segregationists. Was that a bad coalition? I don't know how to answer that question. My modern brain says, yeah, we should never even think about stuff like that. But then another part of me is full shit. What if that meant single payer, But, yeah.
Well, I think we're going to see things like AI decimate white collar jobs. You could see 10% unemployment, and that changes everything and unites a bunch of different groups that couldn't imagine working together now. So who knows what the future brings.
What I think that needs to happen, though, from the Democrats' perspective, is we need to stop promoting these geriatric candidates. Out of, did you guys see out of Maine, Governor, I think it's Governor Mills, right? Fuck. Is it Janet Mills?
Governor Janet Mills is announced she's running. Yeah.
At
77 years old.
77. Oh my God.
Yeah,
Why?
but okay, here's the better way I think of talking about this piece goes. Instead of saying no geriatric candidates, say we should be promoting more younger candidates because their demographic is horribly underrepresented.
Underrepresented.
That just feels like a euphemism, IRI, with respect. Like, yeah, I agree. We could say we need to promote younger candidates or we need to stop having so many old people, but it's kind of two sides of the same thing, which is why the hell are we pushing these people? Why aren't we pushing for some fresh blood? As just a rule of thumb, let's go with younger people.
If you really want more young people, and I'm not even necessarily opposed to that. I don't think we should do like age limits necessarily, but like if you really want more younger candidates, you would really need to boost youth turnout. Like you'd really need to boost turnout for voters that are under like 40, 35, because it's the boomers and the silent generation that are mostly voting in these like older candidates, and they vote in way larger numbers than young people. And so when was the last time we had like oh, go ahead.
They won't vote for a young Democrat. I mean, they voted for John Ossoff. They voted for Raphael Warnock. They voted for, Alyssa Slotkin is younger. She's not an old person.
But Pisco, Janet Mills is considered like a marquee candidate. Like she's one of the top recruits that the Democrats wanted because of her high profile. She took on the Trump administration. Remember, she had that moment inside the White House where she said, "See you in court" to Trump over the trans in sports thing.
And then she did, and she won. So,
yeah. But why do you bring her up? Is it particular to her, or is it just in general? Are you bringing her up?
I'm bringing it up because we're having a conversation about, again, it feels like every week we do, but the character of the Democratic Party, about trying to build a brand for the Democratic Party. And it's hard, I feel like, to build have a fresh new face on the Democratic Party when we run these old dogs. It feels like we're not learning from our mistakes. Yeah, I mean, if Janet Mills, would she be a competitive candidate? I assume so, against Susan Collins. Keep in mind, Susan Collins is not going to be an easy race. Don't assume that just because it's, an off year and, Susan Collins is tenacious. I know the people of Maine, for whatever reason, they're really drawn to Susan Collins. They really like her. So this is going to be a difficult, vital, if you even have any prayer for the Democrats to take the Senate. And right now, that's a long shot anyway. You need to run through Susan Collins. And so I'm not saying she's not competitive. I'm just like, it's emblematic of a broader problem, I think, which is not have dynamic candidates. And her like announcement shit was like not good. And she doesn't seem to be dynamic. She doesn't seem to be like learning with the times. And it's a problem that's not just her. It's broader than that. And I want us to like move on. Generationally, let's move on, just as a rule of thumb.
Well, Pisco, I want to say, I mean, I don't know if you made this clear or you agree with this, but the practical reason why it's not good to hire these old people is, as we've seen with Feinstein, as we've seen with, Ruth Bader Ginsburg, is that they die in office because they're too stubborn to step down and find a suitable replacement. And in that interim period, Republicans take advantage of that, like missing seat or missing, vote. And they don't like responsibly handle the fact that they are old and they're not sometimes able to show up to every vote, or they die and they can't show up to any votes. So I think that's just like the practical concern for like these people are octogenarians. They shouldn't be doing anything, let alone being in Congress. If they have the right ideas, that's great. I think they should all have immediately picked 35-year-old successors to step in the instant they're unable to, and it seems to happen pretty frequently.
Well, speaking of young, exciting candidates in Maine, Graham Plattner, he does rhetoric that I don't love, to be honest with you. I don't really care for the anti-establishment stuff. I think it's kind of low-hanging fruit, but I think that guy is like so interesting and has a lot of potential as a candidate in Maine. And I wonder if we see like more examples like him. He's pretty young. I would guess he's in like his 40s. He's super like masculine coded. He's got this scruffy ass beard, deep ass voice, and he seems to be connecting with a lot of voters. And you never really want to count Susan Collins out, as far as I understand. She's a really like resilient candidate, but I don't know if you guys have seen her polling, but it's really bad right now. Like against either Democrat, the Mills person or Plattner, she's down, I think, like 8 to 12 points. There's going to be a year before that election, but it's not looking great for her right now.
That's what the polling looked like last time. Susan Collins
that's
re-election too.
That's true.
I don't know. I don't know much about that guy, but like I love these candidates who get people excited. I think they get different parts of the base excited, which is great. I just hope people don't put their, hearts into that guy's campaign, because those kind of upstarts are very difficult to win.
You mean
And they don't always
Platinum?
bear fruit. Yeah, he's talking about him. But they don't always bear fruit either. Like Fetterman had this kind of effect on a lot of people in Pennsylvania, and he has been an absolute disaster. And I never liked Fetterman either. So like,
I think Platinum is
Wait. Never liked him. Even
Never.
Hassan liked Fetterman
Nope.
back in the day.
Well, I'm not. I never.
I'm
liked
just saying.
Fetterman.
I'm not trying to compare you. But I'm saying Hassan
Yeah.
is more like left than you. And if
Yeah.
you, that's interesting that you
No,
never liked
not
him.
because he was too centrist. Because I thought that he like his rhetoric didn't appeal. I didn't think he was a good speaker, and I think that his policies, I just wasn't attracted to him. I didn't think that he was particularly forthcoming when there was this one thing that he had where he was like running with a gun or something, where he was like lying about that, or I forget the exact. You guys, the chat will know what happened there, but I felt that he was being deceptive about that shit. So I never liked him.
What could Fetterman do to make himself more attractive to you, Pisco?
Not
think it's
be
over
a
for
complete
Pisco.
and total. Yeah, no, I would, do you guys support Fetterman? I mean, this guy's a joke. This guy's a loser.
He
Fuck.
lost. Well, I don't know what he's doing on the shutdown vote. What the hell is he doing? This is the time to fight. I mean, what the hell? I understand Angus
Same is true.
King. He's an independent
why do
from
you-
Maine.
Wait, so why do you understand Angus King? Just because he's independent?
Well,
Just
because he's an independent. He's like barely part of the. He's not even part of the Democratic Party, and Maine is Maine. You have Jared Golden there as well, so I get it, but I don't understand Fetterman. No, I don't understand it at all. I think he's. Yeah, I don't think he's running. I don't even know if he'll run for re-election. Honestly,
the polling is absolutely. So he's net positive in Pennsylvania. Fetterman is. Shapiro's above by like. He's positive with Republicans. Shapiro's killing it in Pennsylvania, so that's great or whatever. He's keeping his head low. But Fetterman is also positive, but much less. And the only reason he's so positive is because he's net positive double digits with Republicans. He is underwater with Democrats by like 20 plus points. This is what I'm afraid of sometimes. This populist rhetoric will cause people to fall in love. That said, as between someone who's 77 years old and doesn't seem to understand the messaging or where the party's at, and someone where I'm going to take a chance, at this point, as a rule of thumb, I'm just going to be supporting the younger candidates usually. And now there could be extenuating circumstances, but I want younger people.
What do you say to the people who bring up Bernie then?
Yeah, I think Bernie should retire.
Well, Bernie would have retired then because he's like 83 years old now. So he would have retired years ago using your, what you want to see.
I think Bernie should retire. I think he should have retired. I don't think he should have ran for re-election. Yeah.
I think we would have missed out on a lot if Bernie didn't run in 2020.
On what? He is still a popular figure among the Democrats. Like,
his 2020 campaign was huge for moving our country.
No. But he just ran for re-election in 2022, right? Or 2024?
I know. But I'm saying 5 years ago, he was 78 years old or whatever.
Yeah. I mean, we're in a different kind of moment now. And so maybe I would have taken a different approach then versus now. But now, having learned everything we've learned from Joe Biden and all these other, and Dianne Feinstein, et cetera, yeah, okay. Maybe that standard would have stopped some people who are effective. But I'm not convinced. I'm not convinced at all that we need Bernie anymore. And I think that he should retire. I think we should have another candidate there. I think we should be completely transitioning to people who are sub 75.
Yeah, I love Bernie Sanders, but I'll say this as someone who's gone to 2 of his rallies. After the first one, you've heard everything. The rhetoric's there. I love him. I love that he shifted the Overton window. But I don't think he's bringing anything particularly new, and that's fine. I mean, he's got his message. He stays on point, and now we can have someone that has the same platform. Like I said, these people should have successors. It seems like he's not grooming AOC to be that necessarily. Obviously, they differ on some things, but there seems to be the Bernie-inspired candidates that will do Bernie-inspired things with the same sort of platform that he does. But like again, Pisco, just to add on to what you're saying, like these older candidates are a liability. Lest we forget that the reason that Joe Biden dropped out of the race was because he dementiaed out in the middle of a debate. We can't have that. We can't have these people who are trying to speak like to the American people and try to like rally them, and they can't even finish certain sentences and they trail off into nothingness. I mean, clearly the Trump crowd doesn't care and they'll forgive it, but it doesn't work on our side. It just doesn't.
Well, Bernie just turned 84, by the way.
No,
that's crazy. He's old,
he didn't.
man.
84?
Yeah,
No, I don't believe that.
he is. I'm looking online. He's born in
Jesus.
September 8th, 1941.
Well, to Bernie's credit, he seems like he's really active out there trying to, hand the mantle down. He seems to be like positioning AOC quite nicely for, its primary challenge against Schumer. I mean, I don't know. I'm sure we've talked about this before, but if you guys had to pick for AOC to go for the Schumer seat or the presidency in 2028, what would you want her to do?
Schumer.
seat. I don't think she's got a good shot at president yet. I mean, obviously she's really popular within the Democratic Party, but in the same way that the populace has been brain poisoned against both women in general candidates, but specifically like Hillary Clinton for years because she was in the limelight, I think AOC is that kind of demon boogeyman for the right. I mean, she is not the face of the Democratic Party. She's not even like the top 5 most important, powerful people, but she is absolutely on the top 3 shit list for Republicans when they are talking about the Democratic Party. They're the crazy socialist radicals, and I think she is just not
Why
going
are we
to.
going by what the Republicans say? I mean, the Republicans are going to say shit about Joe Biden. They're going to say shit. They're going to paint anyone who comes out of a process as the most radical, horrible, corrupt person.
Wait, Pisco, I agree with that 100%. What I'm saying is the machine that has been, pumping anti-AOC propaganda is not the same as it was for some of these other candidates. And I think that because she has been in the limelight for 7 years, I just think that they're going to be able to capitalize off of that kind of anti-AOC hate that has been, just pumped out there for so long. I don't think that's a good thing. I don't think that we should let them dictate that. I just don't think she has nearly as good of a chance as a presidency, and she needs more time establishing some stuff before we can. I
would support her for whatever she did. I would support her for whatever she did. And I want to say we need to stop. And I'm not saying that you're necessarily doing this. I think you're pointed to some kind of anti-AOC industry that you're seeing that's true for her but not for other people. Well, in that sense, I'm less concerned because she's been battle tested, she's battle hardened, and I don't think anyway we should be focusing on who our candidate should be based on what the Republicans are going to say. They're going to be unhinged no matter what.
No. I'm focused on how much sway that the media machine can pull over independents, not just Republicans who are obviously never going to vote for her. I'm talking about the independents who in the same way in 2016 you had all these middle of the ground voters saying, is Hillary really the lesser of two evils? Look at all this anti-Hillary media I've been pumped in my brain since the 1990s. I think that same machine exists for AOC now because of how much she was in the limelight, and I think that is a liability in terms of a general election. That's just a worry I have. Not that the Republicans are right, that we are letting the Republicans dictate it, only that it's kind of just a reality that this exists, and I'm not so sure it would work.
I'm not sure if it's the case with Republican voters, but I know that for Democratic voters, it's either a plurality or a majority of Democratic Party voters favor electability over substance. So they would rather, choose the candidate that they perceive to have a better chance of winning over somebody that might more closely align with them ideologically. So,
that's everything now. Most people out there think the whole government's corrupt. They're all idiots. They all suck. So if somebody can convince people that they can change it and they'll be the fix, that's all they care about. They don't care. I don't think people understand policy at this point.
I don't know about you guys, but that is for sure. And that's something that's changed for me. But going into 2028, I know we have some time, but I think in 2028, that's going to be the question I ask, before policy proposals or, general ideology. I'm definitely going to focus on the candidate that I think has the best chance of winning over candidate that might more closely align with on policy.
Yep. That means Pete Buttigieg is out. Kamala's out. It's going to be Gavin Newsom all the way, man.
Ooh, I don't know. Maybe
Newsom will win because he's a white man with a white Aryan-looking family, and he's smug and he kind of looks like a supervillain, and maybe that's unfortunately what we need.
Soy Pill, you just went on and on about how there's this industrial complex against AOC. You are not now going to distinguish and say, well, that doesn't exist for Newsom, are you? Really?
It does. I honestly think it's worse for AOC than Newsom, and that's what's so insane is that Newsom is infinitely larger and more powerful as a figure. He has so much more sway. He has so much more history. He has more baggage than AOC, and I like AOC more than him, but I think that the sexism and the targeted ability to pin socialism on AOC has made her, like I said, the top 3 anti-figures for this like anti-democratic media machine. I mean, that's just my perception. I could be just MAGA brain broken from being in the bubble and watching too much of this garbage and crap, but I'm seeing the same problems from 2016 where you're going to get the useful idiot, the podcast bros, these people who are swayed by just these tiny little things that are spammed in their face. I don't see those same attacks working on Newsom nearly as well as they work on AOC for your middle of the ground voters. But again, this is me being pessimistic. I love her. I hope that she wins at least against Chuck Schumer. If not, if she ran in the general, I'm going to, get on my back and have people, stand on it so they can ring the doorbell for canvassing. I'm just skeptical.
Well, whoever the like progressive candidates that emerge, like whoever they are, whatever, whoever they are, like the biggest struggle that they're going to have to confront is something that's been dogging them for years, which is they're polling with black voters. And so I haven't really seen a lot of discussions for like how to like boost AOC's numbers nationally with black voters, or even just like the progressive movement broadly. But until that's addressed, it's just, I don't really know. I don't really see how, I mean, the anti-establishment stuff would have to like really explode, or we would have to be plunged into like a Great Depression. And then, it's like whatever is possible, but I just don't see
what
that
you're saying is that
conversation happening.
Leftist candidates in your mind aren't
not leftists. I mean, not just leftists. I mean, like progressive or whatever.
Progressive candidates are. What do you consider to be like the daylight there? So do you consider leftists to be more left than progressive?
I don't know about you guys, but when I think of leftists, I think of someone that's like aligned with Marxist principles on the economy. Like whereas a progressive might just be like super socially liberal and or socially progressive and not be a full on socialist. But that's just my understanding of the word.
You think progressives have a tough time attracting black votes?
They do, yeah. I mean, this is just like a measurable trend over the last, I don't know, a very long time, like several decades, to be honest.
Well, I can maybe speak on this. I know Hutch, you watched my video, but I was talking about this in my recent video.
As a black man.
as a black man. No, so like Ro Khanna right now is like going around and, he said hasn't said he's running in 2028, but he's probably, that's like, why else are you going across the country? And you're just spreading the message about this, fight the oligarchy. But, he's probably grooming a campaign to some point. And, a lot of what I hear from these, pastors and the Baptist communities, from these, like the Jim Clyburn, like black network that he has to spread across that state and across the country, is that they're worried about electability, like you said, Hutch, but also it's about a lot about putting your money where your mouth is. So Bernie Sanders, they were like, wow, these policies are great. I like the healthcare. I like the idea of lifting up communities. I like the minimum wage idea, but they're worried. One, can you work with the people in your own party? And they weren't super convinced by that. And two, can you work with Republicans to get some sort of bipartisan thing passed? That's like, will your platform ever come to fruition, or can we trust that it will ever happen? And if you don't go into these communities and say like, hey, this is how we're going to do this here, and here, making these promises. I mean, this is just an example. I'm not trying to shill for Roe. This is just the example I know because I was on the campaign trail. He's like, hey, we have all this money in Silicon Valley. I want to take some of that, tax it, and give it to HBCUs and use that, to help disadvantaged kids get jobs in Silicon Valley, that sort of thing. These promises to these communities, they didn't see that for certain candidates. That's why they were worried about Bernie. That's why they voted overwhelmingly for Joe Biden and Hillary Clinton, because they were, part of the establishment that has that network that reached out to these people. And so progressive policies aren't like, hated.
We should lean into DEI. Do you think they should lean into DEI? That's kind of what it sounds like you're saying. It's funny because Mamdani,
in some ways.
I hate to always bring up Mamdani, but Mamdani had there was some flyer or one of his policy programs which talked about, we're going to tax the predominantly richer and whiter neighborhoods or something like that. Do you guys remember that?
He's on his website.
And
it was a policy on his website.
Something like that, yeah. But the way it was phrased, I guess this is the IRS when it's about framing or whatever. What you're suggesting is something similar. I mean, you're saying like the candidates should run on DEI and helping, affirmative action and these kinds of things.
So DEI, I think, is kind of a misnomer in this case, because the idea of like we are specifically going to help Black people is not what I'm saying necessarily. It's more of, hey, if you want people in these communities, regardless of what kind of community, what demographic that is, to vote for you, you need to make promises to those communities, and making that like broad economic message of, hey, let's make everyone's life better. Here's how we help you out. Here's how we're going to help you out. Here's how the direct effects of my policies are going to, like, going out there, shaking these hands and talking to these people. This is like a grassroots canvassing ground game movement that is how you win over. This is how Joe Biden got votes in South Carolina. This is how Hillary Clinton got. I know she didn't win, and so I don't think the progressive policies are the liability. I think it's like, can they figure out how to do what has been done for decades and show these communities and get the word out? Because just making videos online is not enough. Even though that does help in the modern age, you still need to do what's been done for decades, which is the ground game.
Well, there's this new like burgeoning group in the country that's becoming more and more common, which was like, it was like a meme in 30 Rock, but like socially conservative, fiscally liberal. That's like starting to become a pretty widespread thing. And so then you get into this discussion about like, and I don't know how much into the weeds we want to get into it, but like, Kamala, for example, she never gave any indication that she was wavering on her support for like trans people or gay people or anything like that, but she didn't talk about them as much. And that alone was enough to like make a lot of people upset. And so, I don't know. Do you guys think it's a valid strategy? I mean, like, think about Obama, right? Like, everybody probably understands that he, supported gay marriage when he was running in 2008. But back then, in that climate, you just, couldn't really win a primary or general unless you said that. But yeah, go ahead.
That he didn't support gay marriage in 2008, right?
No, I'm saying I think he did, and he just said that he didn't. And I think when he announced that he did, right? So like, was that the wrong thing to do? Like, would we be supportive of a candidate that staked a position that was more conservative in terms of like social policies or social cultural issues, if it meant like strategically giving them an edge?
I don't know the answer to that. I just think that what Kamala and Democrats have failed to do the last few years is speak to large groups of America, like young men. Like, what if I were to ask a young guy, what does the Democratic Party offer you? They'd probably say, my girlfriend can get an abortion or something. Like, I don't think young guys can look at the Democratic Party right now and see themselves like gaining anything by it. And I treat politics very selfishly when I talk to people, and I try to show them how it will help you. Like, how does helping the homeless help you if you're not homeless, right? I think it's the only way you get people to give a damn. Democrats avoided talking about like young men's problems or how to help them in any way. And Trump just kind of danced around the issue by dicking around with Aiden Ross and people like that. And that was enough, and Theo Vaughn or whatever, to get young men across the line. So I think it's more about appealing to the larger groups than worrying about establishing yourself as a protector of smaller groups. That's my opinion.
Yeah, that's kind of what I was getting at. All right, is that seems to be what is happening, is having a very broad-based, kind of almost generic, but not in a pejorative way, message that you kind of tailor here and here, like almost like a mass resume that you switch 3 or 4 words out when you switch the companies, but most of the message is ultimately the same, depending on which community you're talking to.
I have a question for you guys. How do you feel about Democrats kind of doing business as usual shit? And this kind of gets to your point about, ground game, et cetera, Hutch, or a soy pill, sorry. There are a lot of Democrats who I feel are not meeting the moment and kind of acting as, everything is okay, everything is usual. And I'm kind of alarmed by this. I think that people like Chris Murphy, Governor Pritzker, Governor Newsom, they get it. But I feel like a lot of Democrats are sleepwalking. What do you guys think about this? Who do you think who are your stars among the Democrats, besides the people just mentioned? And who do you think is taking it easy?
Well, I want to turn that back at you, Pisco. Who is sleepwalking in the Democratic Party?
I think basically everyone who speaks about this administration, and so for example, people who like speak about the administration and like praise them without having some kind of like, but never forget Trump is corrupt. Like, for example, even now the statements about the ceasefire, anyone who releases a statement about the ceasefire and is like, this is, just a pure and perfect thing, and we're so happy that Trump and this, for example, I think is like Bill Clinton. Did you see Bill Clinton's statement?
No.
Any Democrat who's like releasing a statement just like praising the ceasefire as an example without offering a kind of like, hey, this is all the corrupt shit that you're doing, this is all the horrible shit that Trump did, like they're just acting as though this is a normal presidency, normal moment. And again, this might rub people the wrong way that I'm saying this, because they're like, but what do you mean? Shouldn't they just be like purely praising the administration on this win? But I do think that any statement you make with respect to the administration should be coupled with a kind of recognition of where we're at.
Pisco, name one sleepwalking Democrat, yes or no.
Huh? I just told you Bill Clinton. Bill Clinton. I think Schumer's another one. I think Schumer's another one. They're offering like their consent for a bunch of bills that passed. They're not fighting on everything. So
Yeah,
I think that
how can
there's
you
a lot
say
of this
that
shit
like
going on.
but during the shutdown though? I
well,
mean,
that's what
yeah,
I
of
was gonna
course.
say. Yeah.
Like it's like
Well,
this is the ultimate like fight that they could be taking at this point, and I understand maybe they're not like we are raising and blazing the alarm bells, and like you said, Gavin Newsom is doing this like constantly, like, hey, there might not be an election, hey, this is fucking serious, but
Well, can
to
I give you an
what
example for
degree are
Newsom
you like?
specifically? So it's like, so Newsom
Yeah.
just passed this law, this anti-Semitism law in California. Now we all agree anti-Semitism is a huge problem in the United States. We all agree that like we condemn anti-Semitism, all that shit. But at a time when the administration is weaponizing these kinds of arguments to go after free speech, you're going to introduce this kind of weird generic law, very nebulous about what the terms mean, that's opposed by the ACLU in California, that imposes some level of restrictions on teachers in California at a time when the administration is weaponizing anti-Semitism to go after Americans and immigrants. That seems like
Could
it's
you
tone deaf
elaborate
as
on the
fuck.
bill itself? Because I actually don't know
Yeah.
what's in it.
I'm
So
looking
there
at
was
it right
a-
here.
Yeah, there was a bill that Gavin Newsom passed that essentially said that you're not allowed to speak politically or with a stance on certain issues related to anti-Semitism, et cetera, et cetera. I don't have the exact language memorized, but you go for it.
Well, it says AB 715 establishes a new Office of Civil Rights and establishes an anti-Semitism prevention coordinator to develop training resources and enforcement strategies for K through 12 schools. It also requires districts to investigate and take corrective action when discriminatory content is used in classrooms or professional development. And then SB 48 complements that effort by creating 4 statewide discrimination prevention coordinators, and et cetera, et cetera. But that one is also focused on says religious, racial, ethnic, gender, and LGBTQ discrimination. So that one's not just about anti-Semitism.
I'm talking about the provisions that impose substantive standards on teachers that say teachers must be, quote, factually accurate in lessons and adhere to unspecified, quote, standards of professional responsibility while avoiding, quote, advocacy, personal opinion, bias, or partnership. It reminds me a lot of the Don't Say Gay bill law in Florida. Now, some of the enforcement provisions might be different, and I trust someone like Gavin Newsom more than I trust someone like Governor DeSantis or whatever. But it's this kind of shit at a time when like civil liberties are at risk, for him to make this decision to pass this law and then say, oh, don't worry, within a year we'll pass some clarifying law that like specifies, and he did this as part of his signing statement. He's like, we're going to plan to pass like a law that specifies with more granularity the requirements here. It just feels like it's not meeting the moment and not recognizing the massive threat to civil liberties. Maybe not. Again, I don't think that this specific bill is going to destroy First Amendment in the United States, but it's just indicative of like in this moment right now, anti-Semitism is being weaponized against universities, against all manner of private actors in the United States, against immigrants, to deport Mahmoud Khalil, et cetera. And this kind of shit pisses me off.
So the bills were not spearheaded or championed by Newsom. They were championed by a couple assembly members in California, and they had the strong backing of the California Legislative Jewish Caucus. Don't you feel like Newsom would have looked like kind of a psychopath if he would have vetoed an anti-Semitism bill?
No, I don't think he would have looked like a psychopath. He's just been like, listen, I have major concerns, as does the ACLU, with civil liberties. I'm happy to pass a version of this that clarifies its mandates more carefully, and I'm ready to sign that bill into law the minute it's clarified. And I'm not going to just say, oh, we'll pass this now and clarifying legislation later. I don't think he would have looked like a psycho, to answer your question.
Go.
Do you think that, as I said it, that would have looked like a psycho to say this?
Well, I don't know what you seem to know about more of the particulars of what's in the bill. This is the first time I'm hearing of the bill, but I just know that the polling. I don't know what the polling is like in California, but I know the national polling showed that a pretty clear majority of Americans were concerned about like anti-Semitism in colleges, and so it stands to reason that you would see bills materialize in various states to address it. I'm sure they felt a lot. I'm sure they felt pressure from their own constituents to do something about it.
Yeah, also, why not hijack the narrative from the Republicans and show what the Democrat version of that would look like? I doubt it mirrors what the Republicans are doing.
I don't think that what I'm saying is like I recognize, and I started this whole thing by saying that like anti-Semitism is a huge problem. It's also a big issue that we have the administration using anti-Semitism to crack down on civil liberties. So notwithstanding the fact that there exists a problem with anti-Semitism, I think that the reaction by Democrats should be to double, triple, quadruple down on free speech and protecting the rights of teachers in this context.
But
that
think-
doesn't stop you from making an office of anti-discrimination, even one specific to anti-Semitism. I'm all for that stuff. That's great. But don't impose these kinds of like vague restrictions on teachers without clarifying them. That scares me, and it kind of shows that like, well, what's your priority here, Governor? Like, why are we doing this? Why can't we have the implementing legislation at the same time as we're passing kind of the substantive legislation?
Well, I would just say, Pisco, do you think that there's room to be against an anti-Semitism bill in America right now? I would argue there's no political capital on the left to do that.
This is what Trump would say to people who are talking about, like, who are criticizing the Mahmoud Khalil deportation, or who are criticizing like the Harvard spat. They're like, are you really going to take the side of the anti-Semite, Palestinian Gaza Nazis who are embedded in these administrations? Framed like that, okay, but like, don't accept that framing. We should just be tripling down on rights and being like, yes. And Gavin Newsom should be able to walk that line. Again, I don't think this is the end of the world. I would definitely, I think Newsom, by and large, in recent months, have been doing a lot of positive things. I support his litigation strategy. I support his stuff on Prop 50. That's huge. And he's been strong on that. I'm not saying throwing the baby out with the bathwater. Gavin Newsom, I think, has made turnarounds, and I'm not saying I would never support him. I'm not like with these crazy lefties. But just like in this moment, that's one indication of, I think, like, what I hate to see from candidates is not doubling, tripling down, and recognizing the moment for what it is, which is an attack on civil liberties, attack on rights. And again, just an indication of that failure. And by the way, Jon Stewart, someone else was putting that in the comments as well. He does this all the time too, where he ignores the context that we're living in to try to maintain this kind of like, I'm a neutral guy. I always tell the truth. I'm going to, talk down to both sides equally. That's the kind of attitude, whether it's not recognizing the moment or doing this kind of whataboutism, both sidesism, that really rubs me the wrong way.
I would say, Pisco, I think there are valid concerns behind this, but ultimately this is the same. I would say is like, yeah, if you want to say that this is attack on free speech and we can speak up against it, but ultimately the time spent on that should be much less. Almost, I think, addressing this as a greater issue than anything else is in the same way that you say, hey, you got to pay attention to the moment we're in. I don't know if that's giving this heavy thought is the moment we're in. The moment we're in is focusing heavily on Gavin Newsom, like you said, pushing back on the crazy Trump cracking down on our free speech. And if Gavin Newsom does do some sort of encroachment, if that's what this bill is really doing and passing some sort of weird anti-free speech thing, yeah, we can address it. But it's ultimately not the priority.
You asked me for some examples of shit, and I'm just basically... I'm noticing that it feels like there are some Democrats in some contexts who are willing to fight, and I praise them for it. And then the other times where I feel like it feels a little dejecting. I'm glad that we're fighting in the congressional fight right now. We're on the continuing resolution. But I'm not the only one who notices it. That, again, going back to the interview of Jon Favreau, where they're getting inside Democratic people who are like, what's going on? It feels like all of us are treating this as though it were normal. And I'm more on the side of like Chris Murphy, who like it feels like every day is putting out these messages like this is how authoritarianism embeds itself. And I just want to, I do think that it's a mistake not to bring attention to that.
Nothing motivates people like winning. And I think in less than a month, we have these elections coming up. And I think a lot of people are going to be pleasantly surprised by the wins that the Democrats get. And I'm not worried about these races. That Virginia looks like it's in the bag with that crazy lady running on the right. New Jersey seems a little more shaky, but I think both of these are going to be W's, and the Prop 50 is going to be a W. And a lot of people are going to be kind of taken aback, be like, okay, Democrats have some life in them. And I think
hope
that energizes people a bit.
It should be like plus 20 races. These should be plus 20 races, I think. They should be like massive W's, I think. I think the Democratic
reality, though.
Let's end on a consensus and unite against Anna Kasparian anti-Semitism. Can you guys see this right now?
Shit, bro.
Oh, creep.
So we already knew that Anna Kasparian was talking about Israel did 9/11 conspiracies. So she's pretty far gone in my opinion, and we can all. I mean, I think that was the litmus test when you guys had me on. You had me give my opinion on Anna. Whether or not I disliked her, and that was whether or not I was in. That was the hazing ritual. But now she's literally doing the Happy Merchant meme on screen. Have you guys seen all this?
Yes.
It's pretty
this
bad.
Is crazy.
I just
is
seem
wild.
talking about like,
still, so-
yes, we're gonna surveil everybody. Everyone will be on their best behavior. Yes, you're a freak. You're
Look
a
at
total
Jank.
creep.
Look at Jank.
Jank's face right here. And to be
Oh,
clear,
no.
she's not talking about some random people. She's talking about the Israel lobby that was, allegedly, doing some sort of influence over Charlie Kirk. This is insane. I can't believe how far gone she is.
She's talking about she's talking about the CEO of a company in particular. Palantir? No, not Peter Thiel. I don't know. She's talking about some guy, some big wealthy guy. I'm not sure if it was about a lobby group.
Oh, okay. Potentially,
picture-
Larry
but-
Ellison, is that his name? Yeah.
Okay.
That,
okay,
pic-
Thank
that
you.
picture
Thank
was
you
up
for
in the
correcting.
background during her doing that, right?
No.
No. It's not. It wasn't that on the nose. To be clear, that was added
No.
later. But
I'll give her a pass. I'm a Anna hater, and I'll actually give her a pass. I don't think she was trying to mimic that meme.
Oh
I'll
no.
put myself out
I
there. so-
totally disagree with you,
Yeah.
bro. I think it was so
it's fine.
explicit too.
I
think
will
she-
say,
Sorry,
yeah,
go.
I was going to say IRI. I was going so far as to defend Cenk and Anna. I want to say a few months ago, I was arguing with someone and said, like, you know what, Cenk gets the K pass. He can call me that because I think they're fighting the good fight. I don't know. In these past couple of months, they've been saying some wild shit, and it's not
Oh, don't
just
get me wrong.
anti-Israel. This is like, okay, we're treading into like, if Anna Kasparian is saying that Jews
yes.
did 9/11, like, is it really so far fetched as to say that was her doing the Happy Merchant?
No, don't get me wrong. I think both of them are blazing anti-Semites. I've seen Jank say that Israel accepts PDF files. Pedos, they come back there and they gladly receive them. So I don't think you just hate a country that much. You there's more to it. So I think both of them hate Jewish people 100%. But I don't think she was purposefully doing this to mimic that picture. But hey, maybe I'm wrong. I don't know.
I don't have a reason to think that Jank hates Jewish people. I'm more sussed out by Anna when she said the dancing Israeli memes for 9/11. That kind of weirded me out a bunch. I think that also she had that moment. What did she do? Oh, she yelled at some guy on Piers, I think, and said, "Your Jewish identity contributes to your whatever stance." It was something like that. So there have been many sus moments. I think that
Has
if you were
she
to take a
said?
look at
Has
it-
she used the term Zog? Has Anna said Zionist occupied
She
government?
said
yet?
occupied. She said our government is occupied. So she'll. I don't know if she says the term Zionist occupied government, but she does talk about the occupied government a lot.
Yeah,
Our government is occupied. She'll say it like that.
Yeah, she's fully leaned into the Zog stuff. I mean, she comes out and says the government is entirely controlled by Israel, for example. It's something that she deeply believes, it seems.
Which is problematic, and I think one of the areas where they'll have to contend with is if it turns out that this is a lasting Gazan peace, and if it's the case that Trump did, as there are reports that that the State Department pressured Israel. What does that do with those narratives that the American government is just wholly controlled by Israel?
I think if there's lasting peace, there'll be no one angrier and sadder than Jank and people like Anna, because this is what they live for. This is it.
No,
Why do you say that?
I don't. You think they're just like lying about caring about the children of Gaza?
No,
obviously they'll be happy.
I think Israel getting to exist as it is, even with a Palestinian state, is not what they want.
Okay. I just want to make sure because I've seen some people. The narrative being that these protesters are going to be upset there's peace because now they don't have anything to do. They won't know what to do. That's all they've done for years. It's like, no, I think they genuinely care. I know you're not saying that, but I just wanted to make sure that's not what you were saying.
No, I do. Well, hey, let me piss some people off. I think that they'll find something else to bitch and moan about because that's what they do. So I think this is their latest issue that they care about, quote unquote, and they'll find something else. That these people can never be satisfied. So that's me. That's what I think.
I think like, I don't know, this is a really complex topic, but like, I think like he's speaking to like a psychological vacuum that I think will, destabilize some people. They're not going to really understand like, okay, what do I do now? I think a lot of people, I'm not going to say that these people don't care about Palestinians. I think that would be absurd, but I think for a lot of people, they get really passionate about an issue like this, and then it becomes like a really core part of their identity. And then once that's gone, they're going to have to replace it with something else. And I'm speaking from experience too. Like, I don't know how old you guys were when the Iraq war broke out, but that was my whole personality for like 4 years, was just like indignant rage about what the country was doing. And I became like super jaded and super bitter. And, it made me a pretty unpleasant person to be around. And Anecdotally, I've observed that some people have, become very, very jaded after all of this. And so I don't know. It's a question mark. Like, where do they go from here? It would,
Wait, why'd
again,
you stop after 4 years, Hutch? Why not 20 years into the Iraq War?
I gave up on politics for a little bit after Bush was reelected. Like, I got so crushed emotionally and psychologically, and that's when I got into YouTube and gaming and stuff. And so then I found my way back to politics, like around 2016 when Trump came back. So, or when he emerged. But yeah.
Okay. Well, guys, I want to say I'm happy that we filled most of the podcast time with not this, but Hutch really wanted to talk about Collargate. So thank God there's only a few minutes left to talk about it. But what is the context, Hutch? Why is this itching you? What has been this shocking revelation, if you will?
Well, I mean, I think it's like I think it's a really funny kind of internet moment. It did kind of blow up after last week. And what question did you ask me again? Like,
what is so pertinent? Okay, so when I see this, for the audience members who don't know, and if you've been living under a rock, everyone's accusing Hassan Piker of shocking his dog so that she sits in frame for hours on end as a prop. And my hot take is, one, I've seen people use shock collars and they're totally fine, but if the reason he's using it, if he does have one, is to just make her sit there all day, yeah, it's pretty messed up. But ultimately, does this really affect like anything? We're talking about missing the forest for the trees with this Newsom bill. This is so far beyond that. I couldn't even criticize like Pisco for bringing that up when you got half the internet blasting this Hassan stuff, and it's just like, I just don't care about this drama slop. So I'm curious, Hutch, and I'm not trying to talk too much shit.
It's not so much so first of all, we can walk and chew bubblegum at the same time. So if some story blows up on the internet for a week, it doesn't mean you don't care about like Trump's authoritarianism or whatever. But I think
there's a genocide not going on right now, Hutch. You can't criticize Hassan.
I think like what made the story like so big is not even necessarily the incident. It's just everything that followed after the incident, because it felt like at every step he made he kind of Streisand himself, which just made the whole PR disaster for him, I think, even worse. Because when you do like look at the body of evidence, it seems like pretty explicitly obvious that he was lying about the whole thing. And I think it's just like a good cautionary tale for why you don't stand creators. Like when you stand creators, like you will find, or even politicians or celebrities, your brain will find a way to avoid confronting things that are just like self-evidently true to everybody outside of that group. And I mean, I think what made the story interesting is like you have someone like Hassan who goes beyond like ideology and politics. Like a lot of what he frames his content around is about like strong moral judgments. And so anytime you have someone who that's a big part of their content, and then, they get caught doing something like this, that's going to invite an extreme reaction from a lot of different corners of the internet. So I don't know. You guys don't seem like you were deeply invested in this.
Not super invested in it. I mean,
we don't need to get into deep. Yeah, go ahead.
From what it looks like, it looks like it was that he was using that collar, right? Or that he was using to keep the dog in frame. I mean, I wouldn't do that, but what should be done to him? I don't know.
Do you condemn? Yes or no, Pisco?
I wouldn't do it, so I guess I could never. I don't think it's good.
Well, I'll say I haven't paid too much attention to it, but Hassan is a known liar. He lied about getting kicked out of the DNC. He made a whole video titled, "I got kicked out of the DNC," when all they did was ask him to leave a certain area because someone more important came along. So this guy is known to not tell the truth. And I think his dog was being shocked. I don't give a shit what all his little supporters say. And he tried to back away with it. And you did the investigation, Hutch, and seemed to uncover some details. And
bro, we went deep, man. We went fucking deep.
So I think he's full of shit. I think his dog. It's not natural for a dog to sit there for fucking 5 hours and not get up. So I don't know what's going on, but I don't put anything past the guy. And I don't know. Seems like a shitty situation all around.
There's stuff about it that so if you take the image of, because he did this whole thing where he like pulled out the collar and he like showed his stream, but he did it in the most suspicious, bizarre way you could possibly imagine. And when you take a still image of his stream, and then what I did was like I took a still image and then I put it in OBS, and then all I did was I just turned the contrast up. That's it. I did it live on stream, and it's really apparent that there's a strip of electrical tape covering where the like prong prong situation is, and then also the serial number. And
He's also holding it like I don't know if you've ever seen like a girl or a boy in a
kinda like
relationship.
this, right?
Like
Like,
they
here,
try to
it's
show you
not-
something on
yeah.
their phone, but they really don't want you to grab it and look at their text. So they're just kind of like, oh yeah, no, check out this meme, and it's like, hold on, let me hold it. No. Yeah, he's kind of like covering a bunch of it up with his fingers. Like, don't get me wrong, by the way, like all of my shit talking about like why are we talking about this? It does seem like he did it, and it is really awful. Like it looks pretty bad given everything that I've seen you cover, Hutch. So yeah.
But it makes like what he did afterwards like pretty despicable, because like, Moist Critical made a video where he was talking about the thing for like 20 minutes, and he was pretty harsh on Hassan, and recognized some like really obvious problems with what Hassan was saying. And then Hassan like shat on Moist Critical and accused him of just like jumping on the bandwagon. And it's like, it goes beyond just a lie about the collar, like that would have been bad, I think, but I think he would have survived it if he would have just said like, yeah, this is what I'm using and whatever, I can talk to trainer and, explore the ethics of it or whatever. And it would have been bad PR, but it wouldn't have been career ending. But the fact that he's going so hard, and like, I feel like that should be really taboo. And when you do what we do, like when you're doing content and you have an audience and you manipulate your audience in that way, and then you mobilize them against people that are criticizing you for doing something that you very obviously did, that's like a level of manipulation that we're getting close to like MAGA territory. And, I think like there should be social consequences for doing stuff like that. But
no, yeah, yeah. Let me add to that, Hutch, because I think that is more important to bring up, other than this event and like how maybe inconsequential it could be. The idea that we lionize these creators, and I constantly try to hammer this into my audience. I'm not special. I'm not better than you. My opinions you might respect, but if you're holding me up as some like messiah figure and hanging on my every word, that is a recipe for failure. And these people that indulge in that and they want that to be part of their brand will do what you're talking about, which is like what Trump does, which is, hey, there is no longer a space for criticism of me that I will ever validate. I'm going to have my minions like perpetuate whatever excuse or lie and deny, and create this media bubble that makes it impossible to ever change or shape or move in a positive direction. It is incredibly harmful and toxic the way that these creators can sometimes get trapped in these positions of authority. So I do agree with that.
Yeah, like how hard would it have been to just say, you know what, a trainer advised me to get this certain collar, and I tried it, and you guys are right. I don't like what happened, and the collar's not going to be used anymore. And it's not the end of the world, man. Like, holy shit, dude.
Maybe because he knows that he shouldn't, or I mean, I don't know anything about dogs. So this is me. Like my intuition is, as someone who doesn't have dogs and has never, I love dogs, but I've never like owned a dog, is that they shouldn't be in one place for hours and hours and hours and hours, maybe. But there also are dogs that stay for a long time. My intuition is that what people have a problem with is using the dog as a prop and doing things that are not in the best interest of the dog, and admitting that like, yeah, I did do this thing for my stream and not necessarily for the best interest of the dog. I think maybe that's a straw too much.
there's definitely debate about like the ethics of even just using vibration collars, for example, beyond just shot collars. But one thing that you'll always hear from, I mean, this is just like, I did a fucking lot of studying about this like over the last week, because I didn't really know much about like the debate. One thing that's not really debated is that it has to be done like in the context of like positive reinforcement. So if your dog is like, getting off of a bed or whatever, and then you zap it just with no other context or anything like that, then you're creating this situation where the dog feels like they're on edge. They're going to be anxious. They're not necessarily going to know like when that's happening. If you do it in the context of like, proper training, type setting with positive reinforcement, then you can find some trainers that say that it's appropriate to use it, especially if you have like dogs that are, very poorly behaved. But in the context,
are you saying that the collar itself you don't think is inhumane?
Well, no, I mean, like, I've never used a shot collar. My family has. I've never liked it. You know what I mean? Like, I would never buy one personally. I don't love seeing dogs, like yelp when they get that kind of surprise.
That's what I'm asking. I'm asking.
Well, here, I can.
Wait. I'm not. Sorry, I get really triggered. I'm asking the specific thing, which is, do you think it's inhumane to have that collar?
I do, yeah.
Okay.
But wait, I also, it's kind of like.
Let me counter that.
Yeah,
Let me counter this because, okay, in my experience, I was friends with a very rich family, and they had the shittiest, most annoying Pomeranian that you have ever encountered. It would not shut the fuck up. And these people were very wealthy. They tried trainers, they tried like everything in the book, and finally, what they settled on was, we'll get a shock collar, which I've tried it on, and I think it's more intense for us because we don't have the hair. It does give you a little jolt, but nothing more crazy than like it's not like it doesn't hurt. It's like your muscles tense up. It does shock you insofar as it's expecting it to come. The dog does not understand electricity. It doesn't know what's happening. For as all it knows is it's coming out of nowhere, right? It doesn't even know the owner is doing it to it. And what it does is you do it a couple times, and the negative reinforcement of head off when someone new comes in the door, I get a little and I don't like that, and then they stop after a while. It's not this like thing that you're constantly doing. I think the issue is not so much as the shock, because we use like shocks or electric fences to like show animals this is a thing that you shouldn't do, and it works in the long run. You don't have to like constantly do it. The issue
I'm hearing like mixed shit though. So because on the one hand you have people who are like, this should never be used as inhumane. Like this is like these kinds of instruments are abuse by themselves, and that I'm getting tons of mixed messaging on that based on, again, just being on Twitter and seeing that stuff. And then there are other people who are like, no, these are tools that have good purposes and can result in good outcomes for the owner and for the dog. The problem is how it's used. And so when that happens, I as someone who's not a dog expert, I have to throw my hands up and say like, I don't know enough to know that this isn't a useful instrument sometimes.
Right, but I think again the issue we're taking with let me just say what I was going to say is that the issue we're taking with is not me. I know some people are like shock collars should never be used, but I see it as the same as that dog trainer, the dog whisperer. He gives the two fingers in the neck. He's like like don't do that, right? Like it's just a little like, hey, don't do this sort of thing. But when you're using it to enforced behavior that does not make any sense was, hey, don't get up and go to your water bowl. Don't come up and give me licks. Stay in your spot, which is right here in the specific spot on my stream camera. That's the kind of cruel and inhumane part, is like the dog doesn't know what the hell's going on. It doesn't know what a stream is. And you're kind of forcing it to stand still for your image. That's what's fucked up about using it there. But IRI, you were saying.
I had a dog for 10 years, and I can tell you that any problem with the dog's misbehavior is the owner's fault. It is misbehavior by the owner. Don't know what the hell they're doing. No dog is going to act up or do stupid things unless you are mistreating it. It pisses in your kitchen. It barks at people. It does things. It tears things up. It's all your fault as the owner. So this is a shortcut to try to like rewire an animal's brain to force them to do something you want because you failed as a dog owner. Now, I don't know if that's the case with Hassan. I have no idea. But I can only see one use for a shock collar. That's if you have some outdoor dog that you don't want running into the neighbor's yard or something, and it hits it when it goes to a certain area. How else could you teach a dog not to run into a certain area or something like that? But I think there's absolutely no excuse to have a shock collar on an indoor dog. That's ridiculous.
No, what do you think of my Pomeranian anecdote? Do you think that it seemed like they were out of options?
They fucked up. They did something wrong. They fucked up. That they need to learn positive reinforcement, or they're doing something that's causing the dog to go haywire. They're probably screaming every time the door comes on or a doorbell rings or something. I don't know.
You were saying?
I think it's a shortcut. I think it's a cruel shortcut that's unnecessary. And being a dog owner requires patience and responsibility. And you're signing up for a lot more than people realize. It's not your prop that you just play with and then leave it. It's a member of the family. It requires a lot of work and a lot of patience.
Well, the whole thing just got so much worse too, because like on Friday, like people started I got really schizo with it, you guys. Like I started going through like all of his old VODs, and I was like tracking like when the dog moved. And so like anytime the dog like moved position, I would like go back a few frames and there were like no less than like 5 or 6 potential times where he would look back and he would see the dog moved, and then he would look to the right, like on this particular part of his desk, move his arm, and then the dog would kind of go like that and like get back on the bed. And
yeah, but Hutch, how can you be so sure that the stress of seeing his dog move out of frame isn't causing him to want to take a Zyn and put it in his mouth?
That's fair. Yeah. No, but like the whole thing reached a whole new level of kind of fucked up, because like I think a couple of days ago he was doing a stream, and then he had his dog on his lap, and he was just like he was lamenting to his stream. He's like, you know what? Now, because everybody's being so mean to me because of this, now I guess I just can't discipline my dog. So it was like a new level of kind of like emotional manipulation that I found to be quite deplorable when you think about it. You know, like I think it's pretty obvious that he knew that his audience would not approve of that, but he personally doesn't think there's anything immoral about doing it. He got caught, and now he's resentful at the people who caught him doing it for, because now he's got to change everything. He can't be like as strict about the dog being on that bed anymore, because it's just going to invite more scrutiny. And so he blamed them. Like he blamed like the people that caught him doing it, which is pretty wild.
I think I also heard you said the dog caught its paw on the bed or something like that.
Yeah.
If that happened, the dog would be licking its paw
Yeah.
instantly. It wouldn't just sit there and wonder what happened out. You know, dogs aren't idiots. Like if something hurts, they're gonna go to where it hurts and try to mess with it.
Well, they wouldn't put the paw right back down. Like if your dog hurts their paw, they would like limp a little bit. They would like lick it, whatever.
Yeah.
They wouldn't put the paw immediately down on the bed immediately after hurting it.
They're not just sitting there. Wow, something hurt me. Let me stare into space and think about it. Like no. They would go investigate the situation immediately. They're just, you know.
Is he denying that he buzzed
Yeah.
it? Or
Yes,
buzzed it?
he said the dog got
Oh.
its paw cut on the bed or something, and it wasn't even wearing a shock collar.
Wait, no, but that's not the same as that. So I think the biggest, sus sign is if you didn't shock him or if you didn't buzz him, you would just say, "I did not do this." But he's saying the dog got caught there, or I think he got caught. That's different than saying I absolutely did not press the button. That to me is sus.
Well, so here we can end it on this. I just want to like here's what I think is the most damning thing. Okay, so like just put yourself in his shoes. Okay, like let's say you're not wearing a collar, you're streaming, and your dog yelps a little bit, and then maybe an hour, 2 hours later, your chat is telling you like it's going viral, it's getting picked up on LSF. Like tweets are going off, 20,000, 40,000 likes, like they're accusing you of shocking your dog. Like what would you do like right then in that moment?
Take the
Deny
collar
it.
off, show it, say this is
I'd
not
be-
a shock collar.
I
I'd
would
be
deny
proving
it if it
right
didn't
then and
happen.
there.
Yeah.
Right there, right? You would walk up and you would just take the collar off and you would show him like, hey, look, and you wouldn't do this fucking weird thing that he did where he's doing all that stuff.
Yeah,
like
no,
you-
he
A
probably
day
shocked
later.
it.
Yeah.
I think if he didn't shock it or he didn't buzz, I don't know. Is it a shock collar? Did he shock it?
yeah, it was a shock collar, 100%. Yeah.
Okay. But did do we know that he shocked as opposed because there were some numbers it was like buzzing versus shocking. I don't know.
Well,
What it was,
He
but,
claims when he showed the collar, he's like, see, it can do a vibration, but he wouldn't even say that he uses it to vibrate her because he would, that's even more plausible if he were to come out and be like, oh yeah, no, I did buzz her, but I just do a little vibration. It doesn't hurt her. But he's not even admitting that. He's like, here's the collar. It doesn't
Right,
even
so-
shock. It can't do that. It can't vibrate, but I don't do
if
that.
you didn't do something with that button, you would say I did not press any button. You would say, of course I didn't do that thing. But the fact that he's not doing it means he probably shocked her. Or
There's
buzzed,
no,
or whatever the
well,
fuck that is.
there's no way to explain that him not doing that. There's just no way to logically explain that because he also went on to say like this is the worst PR crisis he's ever faced. And so he obviously
Is it really?
Yeah, that's what
What
he
the
said.
9/11 thing?
Well, no, and it's true. People get, especially in America, like with dogs, but like if that is the case, right? Like if you seriously think that this is the worst PR crisis that you've ever faced, you have the strongest incentive to just immediately take the collar off and just show it and for what it is, and without any kind of ambiguity and without any of the fucking weird shit that he did. He didn't do that, and there's no way to explain that unless he has a shock collar. Like there's just no way to explain it. So, anyways, yeah, that story went the fuck off this last week. It was crazy. It was like 3 days of content. Like across all platforms. It was nuts.
I have the perfect little story for this then, because you're like, is this worse than the 9/11 thing, Pisco? In the new Superman, James Gunn movie, there's a lot of building destruction. I don't know if any civilians die on screen, but there's some 9/11 level destruction. But they had a scene where the bad guy kicked the super dog, and it was bad with audiences, they had to cut it.
They took it out,
How dare you hurt a dog? Because no matter what, hurting a dog is ultimately worse than 9/11, apparently, in a lot of people's eyes.
There are these little things where, to me, this kind of emotional response doesn't always, right? Like you would think the destruction of a city in which humans are being killed doesn't resonate with people as much as temporary discomfort for a dog or a pattern of discomfort or abuse for a dog. But for whatever reason, the human mind just will take either an individual case more seriously or a dog more seriously than a human being. I don't know if there's a rational explanation for it.
You're talking very Western too, because if you look at, there's a lot of European cultures who view dogs as the same as every other farm animal that they'll kill and eat.
True.
And so you'll watch. I mean, I don't know if this is a Russian thing, but when Putin was inspecting that dog, or maybe it was the Japanese prime minister, I'm not sure, but he's just picking it up by the scruff and just kind of like dangling it around. Like this is very it's not just a human universal thing. So a lot of people don't love dogs, but definitely Americans are defending the innocent, doesn't understand what's happening to it dog. So
I mean, also strange that he didn't check on the animal. I don't know if my dog, my family member screams in pain, even for a second, I'm getting up to go see what happened. You know what I mean? Not just staring at it. Like, you're being dramatic. Like, it's not every day your dog just goes, ow! go. You know, like something's
about
wrong
the
with your
same-
dog, bro.
I don't know if you guys have pets, but there's
I have.
yeah, nothing will wake you up faster than hearing a pet start to dry heave. I've never bolted out of a bed from 4 a.m. hearing like a cat about to throw up somewhere or a dog about to throw up on the bed or something. So yeah, pain absolutely should be like an instant, oh my God, are you okay? And that did not seem to be what happened.
History
he's
did
like,
not
"She's just
start on
being
October
dramatic."
7th. Sorry.
Oh, did it happen on? It happened on October 7th.
It happened on October 7th, bro, and they called it Dogtober 7th. It was fucking nuts.
I've also seen K911 being spammed in chat, but I don't know if something happened on
Oh
that. too.
no.
I do want to say I don't doubt that Hassan loves his dog and has a close relationship with that. I'm just saying that he could use some work on his ownership skills, it seems. But I don't doubt that he loves the dog and it means a lot to him.
Yeah, I mean, look, do you guys think this is unforgivable?
No.
Or is it like the line?
I just don't like the lying. Like, it's a learning experience. You have a big audience to say, look, something happened and here's what I'm going to do to prevent it from happening from now on. It's not the end of the world. You know what I mean?
It's not unforgivable, but like it speaks to his character is what I'm saying.
All
Like
right. All I want to know is, Hutch, when is part 7 of the Hassan Collargate stream coming out? Because I've been
I don't know,
watching
dude.
it while driving
Apparently,
around.
another clip is going off because people are finding old clips of him now. So I guess there's a clip going nuts on LSF right now. So I don't know. We'll see. Maybe this is another week of content.
This is wait, what lasts longer, Collargate or the government shutdown?
Government shutdown for sure. This will be probably dead by Wednesday or Thursday.
Well, I'm flying down to TwitchCon on Friday and staying with a friend, and he works with the government, and so if the shutdown's still happening, we get to spend more time together. So maybe we can extend it a couple more days. Yeah.
Wait, hold on.
TwitchCon, huh?
Wait, where's TwitchCon this year?
San Diego.
Oh, okay.
I thought it was going to be in LA. That's where all the Twitchers are, but
Yeah, no. If you swing by LA, give me a call. We can get some lunch or something.
yeah, hell yeah. I'm definitely going to go by LA at some point, if not for TwitchCon. But yeah, sounds good. All right. Thank you, Libs, for libbing out today. Can we get some plugs? What's going on this week for you, Hutch?
Just regular streams. So tomorrow, 8:30 a.m., 11:30 a.m. Eastern, 8:30 a.m. Pacific. And yeah.
All right.
Oh,
All right.
You know what? I think I'm having a conversation with Aaron with Straighteraid at some point this week.
When's
About
that
what?
happening?
I don't know. I asked her if she wanted to fight because I saw her in the comments last week disagreeing with my takes. And so
Do you
Oh,
need a
boy.
moderator for this this back and forth? Because I gotta say, I sometimes hesitate to jump in when you and Pisco are fighting because I don't want to poke the bear. But I wouldn't mind observing that. That sounds like a lot of fun.
I mean, we had like a 2-hour conversation a month ago where, we disagreed, but it didn't get nuts. Like, she's not like,
Oh, is that about the DNC stuff?
I think so. Yeah. It was about that and other stuff, but she's not like belligerent. I disagree with her on a lot of stuff, but she's not like crazy or anything.
Okay. Well, let me know if you want someone to listen in on that. IRI, what's going on with you?
I'm actually doing a one-on-one debate on Thursday. I don't even know who it's against, but it's going to be on Modern Day Debates about ICE and the job ICE has been doing. So that should be interesting.
Nice.
And then this weekend, I'll be in Vegas for the When We Were Young festival with the Offspring. So that's gonna be fun.
Nice.
And who are you debating on this modern day debate?
I honestly have no idea. I really don't know who my debate partner is. I just know I'm debating some conservative.
I don't care who they are. I know they
Don't
will
matter to
fail.
me. Yeah, just give me 2 hours to get my talking points out and pound on some conservative, I guess.
Okay. Pisco, what's going on with you?
Yeah, so I had some stuff in the background been working on over the weekend. We'll divulge at an appropriate time. But I'm editing videos now as well as my editor. And so expect to see more videos coming on the main YouTube channel, and follow me on TikTok and on Instagram at Piscolity. More stuff coming there as well. So a lot of shit happening. More to release and announce hopefully soon. But yeah.
It's always funny when you and me go at it and then he edits a video for each of us because we have the same editor.
Oh,
so.
our editor, yeah.
Yeah.
So it's like it's funny whenever we have a fight on Live and Learn, he's basically profiting off of both sides of it, which is great.
On your thumbnail, it'll be like, I don't know what he says. Crazy
Hutch is,
Hutch, Yeah.
Whoever the one that's
it's
supposed
too
to be on the back foot's always like, And then, Pisco says, I am the straight-faced, logical one, and you are libbing out right now. You look so
picked the
soy,
soy
Hutch.
face. I've realized that it's so easy in any conversation to find one image of some guy looking absolutely deranged.
Yeah.
But yeah.
All right. Well, on my end, I've got the cards for Ukraine Fundraiser in most of the descriptions of all of my streams, so please go check that out if you want to help buy trucks for the Ukrainian resistance. Otherwise, I'm streaming semi-regularly this week and working on some vids. I might do some stuff at TwitchCon. So thanks for tuning in, everybody. We need a catchphrase, guys. What's our catch? Like, like a sign-off, and we're like, and like, lib to the future. Obviously, we got to, make something up. I'm not asking you for that right
We'll
now.
workshop it because that one sucks.
This is all, I'm giving you all homework. Well, fuck you, Hutch. You make something better. You don't do anything. You just sit
Live
there.
into the future. What does that even mean?
What do you do, Hutch? You contribute nothing. You come in here and I do everything.
I lend my celebrity to this podcast, my reputation, my good
never
name.
appreciate. I slaved away 30 minutes over a hot stove preparing your dinner, and you fucking poured it on the ground because you didn't like how much salt was in it.
I sent
All
you
you
like,
do is
I sent you
nag,
like
nag.
topics. I sent you like 6 topics when you asked.
Speaking of nagging, give me your email, Hutch. I'm connecting you with someone.
Yeah, no, I did. I sent it to you.
Okay, sick. All right. Well, thank you very much, guys. Signing off, and we'll see you next week.
Bye, guys.
Stay cool. Bye.
Later, dude.